expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. I want to talk now about Zillow and what they perceive to be the future of real estate and how they're kind of changing their business model to further disrupt the real estate industry. And they're not the only ones, but I'm going to pick on them for a little bit based on an article that came out so that you better understand what's happening kind of in the background here, how things are kind of positioning themselves to change moving forward, and how you are going to have more options than ever before when it comes time to selling a house. You've got the traditional way of hiring an agent, somebody like me that has experience that can help you and assist you in this process with very little stress, with a lot of expertise, and get you the best deal possible. You also have, of course, the ability to just sell it to an investor. You try and sell it on your own and save some commission, but you become the agent. You have a full-time job, which is now selling your house. So you've got all these different options out there. And I want to talk about what the CEO of Zillow has said recently about their entry into the home flipping business, which they believe is just the start in this, kind of online real estate disruptors evolution, which has happened over the past few years. And so Richard Barton is the CEO of Zillow. And he said, quote, "We dream one day of having an almost trade-in experience with your house. Buyers are demanding that e-commerce actually come to the real estate market and transform the transaction." So Zillow 2.0 is about revolutionizing that transaction. And so Zillow's expansion from just being an online marketplace where you go to look at homes for sale and review some data about what Zillow believes the home is worth, and information on schools and information on the area. It's a great resource, which is what they initially positioned themselves as, and still are. It's the number one site in the world for that. But there have been a lot of people that have been recently criticizing Zillow. I don't know if you guys watched the movie or read the book, The Big Short, but investor Steve Eisman has severely criticized Zillow, saying that it didn't fully understand the massive risk that they're taking by buying and selling houses. Even though Zillow shares are up about 25% year to date, this is what they're doing. They're now in about 21 different markets. I think it's probably a little larger than that now. But what you have the ability to do as a homeowner is click on Zillow Instant Offers. Zillow will provide you with an offer, a cash close, and you now have the convenience of selling directly to Zillow with some caveats. And I want to break that down for you. But he's saying, Richard Barton goes on to say that, we're making investments in these businesses, specifically mortgages and title and escrow right now, and creating an integrated digital platform, which is how we dream of a quote unquote trade-in experience and how that might become a reality. So he says, envision this. You're standing in a home that's offered for sale by Zillow because they now own it. You've been there a bunch of times. You let yourself in to the house with the Zillow app. They're automating this process. They're removing human interaction from it. But then he goes on to say, we know who you are and we know where you live. We already have a mortgage ready for you. We have an offer ready for your house when you're ready to transact, and you, with one click, can decide whether or not you want to move. What do you guys think about that? I'd really be curious to hear what you think about kind of this proposed evolution of real estate. Do you really want to sell your home, although convenient, to an entity that isn't going to give you anywhere near fair market value? Because that just doesn't make sense as a business model. There's no way a grand scale business is going to be able to operate by purchasing homes at close to what they're worth. It just doesn't work. But this CEO of Zillow is saying, the technology disruption is happening, and we've got to be the ones to build the bridge and get to the other side. So they're trying to spearhead this movement where selling real estate is automated. And what's the benefit to you? Well, you get to cut out the real estate agent and save the commission and not have the hassle of having your home susceptible to showings and open houses and, following up with your agent who's probably going to suck at communication anyways, and just save the whole stress of the transaction. Just sell it to Zillow. So here's my take on this. And I've got a lot to say about this, probably more than time permits, but you guys have heard me, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know how I feel about Zillow's Zestimate and how it's calculated and how it's just flat out wrong most of the time. All these automated value estimators out there, for the most part, are wrong. Every once in a while they get lucky, or if they're in a neighborhood where there's just very little variation in what these homes are selling for, maybe let's say a new construction community that was built out a few years ago. Maybe the construction was done in 2016, and now some of these folks are listing their properties and they're selling them. They've been there for a few years, now it's time to move on to something else. Well, a lot of those homes look very similar. They have similar square footage. They have similar finishes and upgrades. So averaging out a price is a little easier. This property that I was telling you about in West Ashley, in my last segment, is in an area where you can go a few streets down and it's going to cut $50,000 off the value of that house. So these automated value estimators are just wrong, and they use outdated data. They use incorrect data. We were just talking about the lag time in some of these markets, especially the really hot ones. You look at some of these areas of, say Somerville as an example, where prices have gone up and continue to go up in the entry-level markets. But if some sort of automated, home value estimator is saying your home is worth, let's just say $100,000, and they're using outdated data, and of course they don't know the value the market places on different upgrades or varying degrees of condition, which areas are hot, which areas are not, how convenient is the home to different amenities and specific locations. All these things play into a buyer's willingness to pay more or less for a house. So if they're using outdated data and they don't understand the trends in the marketplace, and they're not analyzing the condition or the upgrades of individual homes, but you see online that house is worth $100,000, and then you go and you check it somewhere else with another home value based website, and it says, it's 102, and another one says 98. You now feel justified in that your home is worth probably somewhere around $100,000. But in reality, it could be worth 110, 115, 120. I told you, this was a while ago, but the Zestimate for my home is off by about, I won't give you numbers, but it's off a good 30%. And for my home, that means a lot of money. A lot of money. $100,000+. So I don't rely on Zillow's Zestimate at all. I passionately suggest that people do not rely on that kind of information. Agents are always going to be happy to help you determine what a home is worth, because it means an opportunity to earn your business. And we're all, or at least we all should be, willing to provide value in return for an opportunity to earn your business. So you have all these automated value estimators that are going to say this house, as an example, the one we're using, is worth $100,000. Well, obviously people want to know how much they can sell their homes for. What's the highest price you can get? If you do everything right, how much can you net from this sale? And of course, on the other side of the coin is, I want to make this as convenient as possible. If I just hand someone the keys, how much can I get for my house? What's the most an investor is going to be willing to pay me in return for me doing basically nothing? Most people, frankly, are somewhere in between, and it skews more toward people wanting more value than in, this is not going and buying a car where you just trade in the car at the dealership because it's easy. This is a house. This is your most expensive asset. And here's the reality. Even though these online, value estimators are wrong, you also can't believe that every person you talk to about real estate knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about. Whether it be determining the value of your home or the temperature and the trends within a specific market or the dynamics of a deal being done in those segments of the market and how that impacts you, the buyer or the seller, all that data, all of that value, all of that experience should result in dollars in your pocket, because you're hiring a professional to take care of you throughout this process and to make sure that you don't get taken advantage of, that the wool doesn't get pulled over your eyes, that the process is easy, and that you don't get taken advantage of. So what Zillow's doing is they're let's say it's $100,000 on their, online value estimator. So they're going to offer you like $96,000. But that's also going to come with what is probably going to be somewhere around a 10% convenience fee, which is kind of how they're getting people now. They're giving you a really nice number up front, and then when you really start to break down the values, that's where they get you. The other thing is, they've kind of gotten you emotionally committed to the process of selling your house. So, I wrote down something here and I'm trying to find it. I don't know if it made its way over to me, but they have this language in their offer that essentially says, hey, any assumptions that you've made about what we've offered are your own, and that we're not liable for your construed perception of what's about to happen here. It's this ridiculous blanket statement that's such a red flag that if anybody's reading the fine print, they would stop and say, whoa, wait a minute. What am I about to get myself into? So Zillow offers this really convenient way of selling your house and handing in the keys and just, not having to be susceptible to the stress associated with preparing your home to be viewed by agents and by buyers that don't want to buy it. And they make it sound like it's such a hard process and such an emotionally taxing process that it should be worth it to you to just be able to hand in your keys. So by the time they're done with all their fees, and by the way, it's acceptable to a home inspection, which you have to abide by, which means that when they get that home inspection and they find a bunch of things that are wrong with your house, they're going to deduct that from their offer amount based on contractors that are getting referrals from Zillow. So they've got control over this process. So let's say by the end of the day, you've got a net offer of $85,000 on what you believe to be $100,000, and you're saying, well, if I had to pay a 6% commission, that's $94,000. So it's really only 9% less in order to just sell it right now. And who knows if I can actually get $100,000 based on what these sites are telling me my home is worth. But in reality, it could be worth $115,000, $120,000. You price it at $110,000 with a 6% commission, and you've made $20,000 more. You made 20% more on the deal. So what Zillow's doing is it's not necessarily a bait and switch, because I don't want to identify it as that, but they're clever. All right, they're smart. They know what they're doing. They're getting you attached to the feeling of just being able to hand in your keys and get a check and walk away and not have to do anything. And for some people, that's attractive. I mean, they've already bought and sold thousands of homes in some of these markets. Personally, I don't really understand it. I mean, I get it if your home is in really bad condition and you know that you're not going to get anywhere near top dollar for it. But even then, Zillow has the right to look at your property and say, you know what? No, that's not the type of property we're interested in. Because they're going for kind of the run-of-the-mill, middle of the road, the barbell properties that are easy to fix up and easy to resell. And they're making their money on the ancillary services like mortgages and title, and the money that they're making off the agents that are providing them with referral fees for the deals that they're now referring to them. And it just goes so deep that I just want you to be aware of what's happening kind of behind the scenes in real estate in our industry, and how it's forcing the agents within this industry to level up. And there are a lot of agents that have gotten into this business over the past few years because the market's good and you can kind of stick your hand out and get a few deals and make a little extra money on the side. I can't tell you how many number of agents we have in our market right now that are part-time agents that sell a few homes a year. Your buddy at work that has a real estate license, or your uncle's friend that has a real estate license that also is a fencing contractor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it so long as they are providing you with the value that you would expect or get from a top real estate agent, someone that's in this business, someone that it is their full-time job, has been for a long time. They know the market. They know how to navigate it. They know how to get you the best deal possible. So for folks that are thinking about selling your home to an investor, kind of taking the quote-unquote easy way out, we offer something very similar, and I or an investor that I know will buy your home and make you a better deal. Plus, on top of that, Zillow offers isn't in our market right now, so it's not even an option, nor are some of these other kind of big box iBuyer programs. So if you're thinking about selling your house, you do want to kind of take that quote-unquote easy way out. The first thing I would say is, let me look at my database of buyers. Let me see if there's anybody that we know of right now that's looking for a home similar to yours. And we've had multiple deals that have closed where we matched up a buyer and a seller before it ever hit the market, before we had that buyer going and looking at, a bunch of real estate. And it was a very easy transaction. We just matched up the buyer with the seller. And we've got tons of people that are in a position right now where they want to buy something or they want to sell something. But in order to buy, they need to find the right property. And there's not a lot of inventory on the market right now, which is also kind of a hint or a wink to the sellers that are thinking about selling right now and asking themselves that question of, well, should I wait? Should I wait until, say, March or April? It's on a case-by-case basis, but I'm telling you, there are plenty of opportunities in this market right now to list and sell and not have to deal with all that new competition that's hitting the market. Because a lot of what's on the market right now, frankly, it's a little stale. If it's been on the market for a while, people have seen it, they've decided against it, and now those sellers are in a position where they need to either reduce the price or change something about the house or just take it off the market. And a lot of them are going to do that. So you've got a great opportunity as a seller to take advantage of the market right now because of just the lack of inventory or the lack of good inventory. We just listed and sold a home in Somerville in one day because people are watching the market. They're waiting for that inventory. And if you want to be one of those folks that sells, let's talk about the process. Let's see if that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll tell you. But if it does and you're willing to do it, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of interest. There's plenty of demand. And we'd love to help you through the process. So if you'd like to reach out to me to talk about that, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or you can visit us online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Stick around. We'll be right back with more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.